peaceful Longhorsley on a sunny September afternoon. But 80 years ago it was a very different picture. The world was at war, and this rural backwater echoed to the thunder of tanks and the roar of Spitfire aircraft overhead. Villagers were recruited into the ranks of a secret army, skilled in sabotage and ready to make life tough for an occupying army in the event of an invasion. A network of civilian spies was established to gather strategic information on enemy units and movements, so that the fight for freedom could continue if German forces crossed the Channel. Even the parish priest had a hush-hush role as a radio operator, working from a hidden room in the Pele Tower next door to his church. Incredibly, the army intelligence officer who coordinated Northumberland's secret army was an actor, Anthony Quayle, who went on to star in films like Ice Cold and Alex, The Guns of Navarone, and The Eagle Has Landed. It sounds like fiction, but it's fact, and it's spelled out in a new book by local historian Bill Ricalton. How many soldiers would you say were billeted in the village?
At any one time, between 120 and 150 at any one time.
So I imagine that sort of outnumbered the village population, did it?
Yes, very much so.
So how did the two get on? Was there any mixing between
Yes, it was quite good. They mixed, took part in various activities together. One of them having a tug of war contest between the village and the army. We spent a bit of time in the pub, quite a bit of time. And so did the RAF men, mind you, they were increased outside the village from Eshott. They used to come up from Eshott on their bicycles. And I've seen them.
Eshott was a training station for Spitfire pilots, wasn't it?
Operational training units where the pilots came after they'd learned their basic flying, where they came to learn their fighting skills, if that's the right word. And they came to Eshott to do that.
And did you see much evidence of aeroplanes over the village?
A lot, every day, scores of them.
And it wasn't just aircraft that you had, but there was a lot of tanks in the village as well, I believe.
Yeah, they came a little bit later. The 5 and 4 Human already and the 5th Royal and the Skilling Dragoon Guards. Now they built two great big tank turns or concrete bases on the common for the tanks, and that's where they were parked. Although they drove past through the village at regular intervals all the time.
So it must have been extremely noisy then.
Very noisy, very noisy.
But exciting for a schoolboy.
Yeah, absolutely. We used to sit on the top of the barricades and watch the convoy go, literally convoy, 60-odd tanks go through.
Your book is quite well illustrated with some drawings that were done, I believe, by one of your school friends. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, it was a lad called John Arris, contemporary of mine, who had this ability to draw and see things. They're naive in so much as that they're very primitive, but they tell his story, and you look at them and you can see exactly the points that were there. It's uncanny, really. Webb, the son of the tower owner, was a contemporary friend of mine, a schoolboy friend, who insisted there was something going on in the garage, in our garage, as he said. So we had made several expeditions and couldn't find anything. What had happened, he'd seen Father Wright the Catholic priest, go into the garage carrying a milking stool. And he said to his mother on more than one occasion, "What's Father Wright doing in our garage?" And her answer was always the same, "Well, you know what Father's like." So, didn't know what it was and whatever. But at the end of the war, Pat discovered what it was. There was a hidden place in there. You removed a panel, whatever, and you got into where there was radios, or a radio. The idea being that they would transmit a signal from there to a base station. They were called an outstation, The 0 station was located at Heffelo Bank at Alnwick, and which was manned by ATS girls, full-time ATS. And the idea was, and it was in being all around the country, but no one knows who it were. There were spies trained, people in the village, locals trained to spy. They were taught what insignia was what and how to estimate troops and whatever. And they were to pass that information on. They passed it, left it under a stone and a gate crook, a message in a gate crook. Another favourite place was a telegraph pole, got a number on. If you take the number off, drill a small hole, put a tube in, and put the number back onto the tube inside. And then if I had a message, they used to put it inside the tube and turn the number upside down. So the person who was the runner didn't need to know there was a look. He could see whether there was a message, or she could see there was a message. The runner didn't know who the spy was, and their instructions with the message was to go to a certain place. Again, a gate crook, a door. Another place was a drain with a tennis ball with a split in. Open the tennis ball, put the message in, drop it down the drain, and it used to go to the place where it was transmitted. This was all in practice, but no one knows who they were, who the spy was, who the runners were, or indeed we know who because of a bit of look and search, who the two operators were, was Charles Webb and Father Wright.
So all these people who were involved in this this highly secret behaviour, the people you've just talked about, and those who were involved in the secret army, they were all sworn to silence, weren't they? I think they weren't allowed to talk about it.
No, they were signed Official Secrets Act for life, and were never to speak of it again, nor did they. All the people who was in there took part, the ERP, the Red Cross and Home Guard, they all did a valuable job during the war, and they were rewarded, if that's the right word, with a medal at the end, the victory medal. But the auxiliaries and the 0 stations weren't recognised at all. They didn't exist. All they got was a letter, not sent to them individually, but sent to their commander from the General of HQ, thanking them for their services and acknowledging that their part could never ever be made known. Why? I don't know. Perhaps it was against the Geneva Convention, which says you must be uniformed, ranked and easily identifiable. They were anything but.
But gradually, over the years, and much more recently, bits and pieces of information have come out.
One or two people have spilt the beans, as it were, but only one or two. Others wouldn't. Tom Clark was an example who lived in Paxton Dean. I used to notice him during the war with a little badge in his lapel, and I'd say, "What that for, Tom?" "Tell you when you're a big lad." And when I became a big lad, I asked him what was the badge for. He said, "When it was something we did during the war," and that's all I got from him. And it was like that all over. And I went and did, as an example, I went to give a talk about it at Beadnor. And at the end of the talk, this lady came forward to me and said, "Thank you very much. For over 60 years, my mother and my 3 sisters have wondered why our late father brought Anthony Quayle to our house on regular intervals for tea. You've now solved the problem. This is 60 years of our father had never let on to any of them what he was doing." And that, the war was over and there was it. So it was even worse, if that's the right word, even more secretive during the war.
So
we didn't know what was going on.
So the book, how long has it taken you to put it all together?
Over a number of years, I might add.
Has it been a labour of love?
Oh, very much so. Not only on the outline of the book itself, it was the background that I've enjoyed doing.
Is there anything in the village today, if people look around, anything physical that would remind them of the part that Longhorsley played during World War II?
Not a single thing that I can think of. Not a single thing.